Hello mouses! I've seen a lot of internet adverts lately for a weird trick that removes the signs of aging, so I thought I'd give one of them a try. Now, the portions and incantations that it requires seem very complex, but I think I've got them right, so I'm going to give it a try now and we'll see how it goes. So, 3, 2, 1... Did it work? Yesterday, Newsnight got Twitter buzzing with tales of generalised sexism and in several cases outright sexual assault that women in Britain experience every day. The actual coverage of this immense display of what is wrong with Britain at the moment was unfortunately terrible. I actually called it at the time bait and switch journalism because it went past just being bad and became an ineffectual host in charge of two women who were trying to have a normal debate and one Daily Mail troll who was messing everything up. Thankfully, television has become less and less relevant over the last decade, so we can actually ignore Newsnight now. Despite what the Daily Mail troll was ranting about, the internet is actually the hotbed and the future of activism in the UK and also in much of the world. The internet is the future of activism, and what we saw yesterday was nothing short of a call to arms against the biggest threat that's facing feminism right now. The coordinated abuse by misogynists and deluded men of all kinds, and it comes in two forms. The first is the "but what about us" man. He presents himself as an ally of feminists, but he really isn't. Perhaps he can be brought around as an ally, but right now that's going to take a lot of conversation from someone who's willing to spend all of their time trying to explain to him in words he can understand the way that his reality is not the actual reality, how he is deluded. But right now he can't see past the fact that we aren't taking his feelings into account. The "but what about us" man is used to everything being presented to him from his male perspective. His wants and needs have always been central to the discussion, and when it comes into a women's space discussion and everything is presented in a way that he's not used to, he can't understand it. He can't see anything relevant to his experiences, and therefore his battle cry is, "But men have problems too." So what's the cure for the problems this man causes? Well, the short-term solution is to simply ignore him, but that can cause problems in the long term, especially if he turns his feelings of being left out into a coordinated hate campaign, as some men do. The best thing to do is engage him in conversation and explain to him in ways he can understand, which usually means making the whole thing about him. So your campaign has to have a dedicated group ready and waiting for this guy to turn up. This does of course take time and resources away from the main campaign, which is exactly why the "but what about us" man is such a problem. The second type of problem is the overt misogynist. This guy has absolutely no interest in women's rights. He's simply out to make himself feel good and to increase his standing in the eyes of his peers. He'll attack anyone who's talking about women's rights, whether they're male or female, but he especially enjoys making violent attacks against women. The often suggested solution of ignoring this guy simply doesn't work. If you block him, he'll come back with another account and increase the ferocity of his attacks. He coordinates his attacks with other trolls on hate sites and sites that, while maybe not necessarily a hate site, will be home to an awful lot of men who think they're being left out of their status quo. The solution to problems of trolls like this is not to go after them with their own methods. They'll see that as a victory. Instead, coordinated counterattacks have to come in the form of information gathering and presenting dossiers to the police. Yes, a lot of the police will say there's nothing they can do about this, but that is simply not true. Violent threats or indecent or grossly offensive messages, be they on Facebook, Twitter, any kind of social messaging, email, or even in the form of a letter, all violate Section 1 of the Malicious Communications Act 1998, and they are actually a criminal offence. But moreover than that, if multiple threats come from the same person, then the police will just forego the Malicious Communications Act and go straight for Section 2 of the Protection from Harassment Act of 1997, which has more teeth. For those trolls who are making bomb threats, and there have been a few, you can go with the Malicious Communications Act if you want, but personally, I would go for the Terrorism Act 2000, because when it comes to teeth, there are a few acts that have more teeth than terrorism. Of course, the police might decide that they don't have the time or resources to go and investigate this kind of communication problem, where they think, oh, it's just some lonely guy on the internet and he's going after some women and making their lives hell. But we've got rapists and murderers and thieves and burglars and robbers and all kinds of other things over here which are definitely in the public interest, so we're going to go for them instead, and we haven't got time to investigate this, so we can't. In that sort of situation, you've got to gather the information yourself. Yes, you do end up doing the police's job for them, but at the same time, you can actually get a prosecution if you present enough evidence. So, when making your campaign, you've got to realise that you're going to have to spend an awful lot of time and effort and resources on tracking down and dealing with these people yourself and effectively doing the police's job. It is something you have to plan for. It causes a lot of trouble for you, but if you've got some internet savvy people on your campaign or are willing to volunteer when they see the kind of problems that are caused, then you can do it. Just remember that the less work the police have to do on this kind of investigation, the better the chance that they'll actually take it seriously. And if you've got enough good evidence, you can get these people prosecuted. And that's what you need at the end of the day. Yes, it takes resources away from your campaign. Yes, it is time and effort that you shouldn't have to employ in this situation. But unfortunately, that's the reality of the world we live in. And until these people are rounded up and dealt with by the police, by the authorities, in a way that might actually get through to them, we're going to have to continue planning for this and doing all of our work with a tiny amount of the resources and effort that we should have, because unfortunately that's how the situation is. But at the end of the day, you've got to remember that the internet is the future and it requires less effort to get a more effective campaign going. Just look at the grassroots movements that have sprung up in the last 2-3 years. It is amazing to see that essentially entire movements can come from one person with a laptop, and that is great, because once you've dealt with all these people, there's going to be little time left, so you've got to make do with what you've got. Fortunately, the internet will let you do that, so it's a plus and a minus. Again, thank you very much for listening to this. I hope it's provided some good information on how you can deal with the problems that you are going to face as an internet campaigner, especially as a female internet campaigner. If you did like this, remember to click the like button, share it with your friends so that they can see how to deal with problem people as well, and do subscribe for future videos because there will be more in the future. But until next time, I've been Kirk-Robinson, you've been watching the Knob Mouse Show, and I'll see you tomorrow.